back, you know.
One of the great, tempestuous, iconic figures of jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Another, perhaps, large shadow. What was it like working with him, and what are the residual effects of your tenure with him?
Well, I would say the residual effects manifest in my compositions, because maybe by osmosis, I can hear some Mingus in my writing, even though I don't try for that consciously. But I think there, you know, through the association, some of that crept in there. Yeah, he was an enigmatic figure and very volatile and brutally frank, and you know, he was all of that, and so it provided for an interesting experience. I mean, there was never a dull moment working with him. You know, he'd get into scuffles and physical fights with people, and you know, one time we were in, I think it was British Columbia, and there was a table of young men talking too loud for Mingus. So he got up, I mean, he stopped playing music in the middle of the tune, walked over. No, he went to the bathroom, came back out with a toilet plunger, and then went over to this table. It's about 4 or 5 huge, really big people. And, you know, I could see it. Mm-hmm. I couldn't hear what was going on. And one of these guys got up and took a swing at Mingus and missed him. And Mingus grabbed his fist in midair and kind of slung the guy on the floor. But the guy's momentum was already in the punch. All he had to do was like, mm-hmm. And the guy went about 20 feet. And I thought it was going to, okay, this is going to be murder. Someone's going to actually get killed here. And it turned out, instead of it turned out to be a ludicrous situation. It was funny. Even the guy on the floor started laughing. Mm-hmm. And some kind of way, it was just squelched. That was the end of that. But the next morning, when I read the paper, this guy on the floor was some Canadian pro football player.
Oh, really?
With his cronies in there, in this club. And some famous guy, you know. So it made big paper. I mean, it made the news, and the next night you couldn't get in the club. There were people standing around the block trying to get in there. Mingus would work all those kinds of situations to his advantage. He was quite a thespian, you know.
Though you had a long tenure with Mingus, you still managed to record dates throughout the 60s and 70s as a leader of your own group. Mm-hmm. Particularly at a time when people were chasing sort of different fads in jazz, mm-hmm. yet you remained pretty true to bebop mm-hmm. over the years. Mm-hmm. Was that a conscious decision?
Yes.
And why was that? Why was bebop for you?
What I wanted to do was, I didn't want to just play the same old bebop tunes, but I thought and still think that the idiom or the genre itself is a wonderful idiom through or from which to jump off into whatever else. Right. It's still a very viable jazz form, and maybe the most, how would you say this? It might have more dimension than any of them, because first of all, anything that's happened since bebop is just a step to the side. It's just a branch off of the bebop tree. Bebop is definitely the stepping off place for anything that's happened since that, and that's including Train and anybody else that's later. You can still write new, fresh tunes in that idiom, because basically, what is bebop? Well, I mean, first of all, it's just a catchphrase, just a word that someone coined. Right. But when you say, well, what is it? What is it? It's just a form of music. It's a form of jazz music. And what is it doing? Well, it's using 2/5/1s. It's using harmony, Western harmony, some serious rhythms, and melodicism. So it's just melodic logic, learning how to put together a line to make melodic, logical sense with certain rhythmic nuances and this wonderful flow of harmony, which, you know, there's no I mean, there's no way to run out of things to play.
There's plenty to mine.
Yeah, there's no one. The only thing that's limited is the player, him or herself. You'll never run out. There's no way to run out rhythmically, and there's no way to run out harmonically. And still be within this bracket called bebop, if you want to say bebop. Now, so what I'm doing now, what I want to do, I mean, I still believe in melody. I still believe in melodic logic, even though that's you could maybe say that's subjective. So is everything. But at least my subjective opinion about what melodic logic is, and rhythm and harmony. So I still believe in it. I still think you can write in that genre and come up with something fresh all the time. You can play in that genre, and the only thing limited is you.
In the past, we've talked about the irony that jazz, which is really America's true classical music, is more popular overseas.
In Europe, Japan, yes.
And more appreciated than perhaps it is here.
Yes.
You've toured internationally and you've toured the States. How would you contrast the two experiences?
Well, I must say, if it were not for Europe or Japan, jazz would not make it. Because this country, America, really does not support jazz. Now, that's not to say there aren't jazz fans in America, because of course there are. There are not enough of them. And as much as I might not want to admit that, it's not really America's music. It occurred, and it was incubated on these shores. This is just a geographical spot and a location on planet Earth. It happened here. But it is not necessarily embraced here. In fact, it's not embraced here at all. It's not America's music.
Is that discouraging, or is that just the way it is?
It's just the way it is. I don't even want to indulge in being discouraged about it. Now, maybe I would have felt something like that 20 years ago. I don't care now. It does. I mean, it's too bad, but I care not. I mean, because why care? Now, what I'm willing to do is I'm willing to teach. I'm willing to go to colleges and high schools and do clinics, and to avail myself to people and kids or whomever that might be interested and want to know, because that I think that's important. But it is what it is, and. So it's almost like jazz makes it in spite of America, not because of America. America's music is rock and roll. It's hip hop. It's funk. It's everything but jazz.